And that somehow, and I don't know how this happened, somehow it was as a result of this meeting that this self-recognition first took place. Now, it's very common, and indeed I, at the time, attributed this self-recognition to the encounter with the teacher, with the person of the teacher. And in some ways that's a true interpretation, but it's only one, it's the top layer of the interpretation. What I realized later on is that the presence of the teacher, the consciousness of the teacher is truly the same as one's own consciousness. So although consciousness projects the other outside of itself in the form of a person as a teacher, as the relationship developed, consciousness withdraws that projection, and it realizes that when you meet the true teacher, really it's presence meeting itself, it's consciousness recognizing itself in the so-called other. But that took some years, some time. So the recognition happened immediately, and then I forgot, and there were many subsequent recognitions. But each time this recognition took place, to begin with in the company of my teacher, and later on it wasn't necessary to have the teacher present. Each time it took place, consciousness, that which we truly are, knows that it's not dependent on anyone or anything outside for this self-recognition to take place. Although that seemed to be the initial cause of the self-recognition.
No, I understand what you're saying, yeah. It's like there had to be an integration in one way. There had to have been absorbing in something.
Yes. I remember having a conversation with Francis several years later, and we were talking actually about personal relationships, intimate relationships, romantic relationships. And at one stage in the conversation, he said to me, for true intimacy to take place in a relationship, there can be absolutely no hierarchy.
No hierarchy, okay.
And then there was a pause. And then I remember him looking at me and saying, exactly the same thing is true of the relationship between the student and the teacher. For the true intimacy, for the true friendship, for the true love to be felt, to be expressed, there can be no hierarchy. There can be no sense of, I'm a student and you're a teacher. I don't know and you do know. There can be no difference. What he was saying is that the true relationship between a so-called student and a so-called teacher is truly the relationship between presence and presence, which is no relationship at all.
Because it is the same.
Yes, presence doesn't have a relationship with itself. Yeah. It is itself. There's nothing else. There's nothing to have a relationship with, although it appears to begin with. And that's exactly the same of a relationship like this, or a love relationship, any relationship. And that is the true content of what he was saying in this conversation, is that the true content of an intimate relationship, not between a student and a teacher, but between lovers or between friends, is the sharing of this presence. That's what the experience of love is, the recognition that we are one.
No, I understand. And your work now, you're still working in ceramics, I understand.
Yes,
you're still creating and pouring out whatever inside into your art form.
I make no conscious effort to express what we're talking about here in my work. It's not here.
I can understand that, but it must be intrinsically expressed somehow, I would think.
I think it is, absolutely. It is. I hope it is. In fact, it couldn't not be. But it's not something I'm trying to do. It's not something that goes through the intellect in the way that when we use words, we're using our intellect, we're using abstract conceptual ideas to try and express something which is not abstract and not conceptual.
Right.
When we express something in form, a bowl or a painting or a piece of music. We don't have to go through. We bypass the intellect. That's the beauty of it. That's why it's so efficient. It doesn't get tangled up with concepts and ideas. It's more direct. In some sense, you could say it was more direct. Don't take that statement as being too true, because words can also be very direct. But I say that because I'm not trying, or let alone working out how to express what we're talking about here through form. Not at all. I'm just making.
So we're going to stop there for now, Rupert, because we have a part 2, which will be more an experiential program. I want to thank you for coming into Conscious TV for part 1. Thank you for watching Conscious TV, and do stay tuned for part 2. Thank you.